taking my time to perfect the beat, and I still got love for the streets. It's the D.R.E. It's the one and only D.R.E. Dr. Dre. And when your album sales wasn't doing too good, who's the doc that he told you to go see? Quarter rounds and smoke a quarter pound of that good stuff. Oh yeah, we smoking all night.
Certain people like Dr. Dre waking up and smelling the coffee, and now they're looking for their money.
Basically, I had Dre signed as exclusive producer and exclusive artist. Basically, you could diss me all you want, but I'm gonna get paid. Because that's why I say Dre Day's only easy's payday.
Any man that puts his hands on a female is a fucking idiot. I was out of my mind at the time.
For my little brother, just 20 years old, he had to watch his whole life unfold.
Okay, real talk. What is the deal with Dr. Dre? I mean, sure, he's the badass producer that went from the gritty streets of Compton to becoming a multi-billionaire.
I've been in the game close to 27 years, and I've actually thought about this just recently. Out of the entire my 27-year career, there's only been 2 weeks that I've been out of the studio. I've never been out of the studio longer than 2 weeks in my entire career. That's how much love I have for this thing that I do.
There's way more to this guy than Beats by Dre and Platinum Records. In reality, for someone with $1 billion empire, it seems Dre can't go 5 minutes without being knee-deep in some scandals. From beating up women in the 90s.
And while I was talking to this person, Dre approached. They grabbed me by my hair and started slamming me up against the wall.
To the absolutely wallet-crushing $100 million divorce settlement. One thing's for sure, Dre's life has been one headline-grabbing mess after another. I mean, seriously, after revolutionizing hip-hop and stacking cash like he's Scrooge McDuck, one would think the man would have chilled out by now. But nope, not Dre. So why don't we dive into the messy life of Dr. Dre? 'Cause trust me, you would be shocked about just how much trail of chaos this man left in his wake.
And Yelena came in drunk and just took off and sucked me in ass.
But before we dive headfirst into all the madness, let's hit a quick rewind. Dr. Dre, born Andre Romel Young on February 18, 1965 in Compton, California, arrived in the world just 2 weeks after his mama turned 16. Crazy, right?
I actually had just turned 16. My birthday was February 4th. He was born 2 weeks later, exactly February 18th. And so he was sort of like a birthday present, a little doll, that's something you could undress and redress.
But that's not even the half of it. His dad was physically abusive and abandoned him and his mom before little Andre could even make out the features of his own father's face. Whew, talk about a rough start. But for now, picture this. A single mom raising a kid in Compton in the 60s.
Because I wanted to be a good mother and prove all these people wrong that in the neighborhood, you hear the little whispers, look at her, she's not going to be nothing, and her child's not going to be nothing either. And I think that's another negative that made me try harder and make it into a positive.
Life wasn't exactly a walk in the park for young Dre, and honey, let's be real. Compton was no joke either. Drugs, gangs, violence, gang violence, you name it. Those were everyday things in the city. But Dre, he had his eyes set on bigger dreams, and one thing's for sure, music was always in his blood.
I was born a poor black kid in Compton. Now, I grew up in first part of my life in Wilmington Arms in Compton. And from there, I moved to a couple of different spots in Compton and learned how to DJ. I was a street DJ. Took a couple of my mom's component sets and rewired them different ways so I can have 2 turntables. And I used the balance knob as the fader.
He was obsessed with the beats, the rhymes, and the sound of hip-hop.
We used to have to bring trash cans and boxes and just different things that would make sounds for a snare drum or a kick drum, and that was just like part of the creative process at that time, which to be honest with you was much more fun. And now you can just turn on the computer and you can find all the things that took us hours to find.
So much that when his mom noticed his potential, she gifted him a new Mark 1150 mixer.
That mom's got me a mixer, Went around the neighborhood, got a turntable from this fool, put it together, and was DJing, making tapes basically, I used to make tapes for all the fellas in the neighborhood, charge them like $10.
By the time he was in high school, Dre had already started DJing at clubs under the name Dr. J, and it won't be until later that he would rebrand to the name we all know, Dr. Dre. Dre's rise to fame started with the world-class Wreckin' Crew.
I'm Dr. Dre, gorgeous hunk of a man.
But it was his time with NWA that really launched him into superstardom.
Easy as his name and the boys coming straight out of Compton.
I mean, let's be real. NWA shook the world with their raw, unfiltered music about life in Compton.
I think somebody should write a song called F the Police. No, it's like when we wrote the song F the Police, it's the stuff that we've been through before and that everybody around us been through. People been going through for years, but we was, everybody else was scared to put it on record, so we put it on record and said it how we wanted to say it, and everybody didn't pay attention to it.
And Dr. Dre, the man's production was next level. He practically created the sound of West Coast rap, turning gritty street stories into timeless bangers.
It's very easy to make a hip-hop record. It's not easy to make a good hip-hop record.
But as we all know, with fame comes drama. And oh boy, Dre was no stranger to that. First, let's talk about how NWA came to be, because, honey, the story is just as chaotic as you'd expect. After loads of drama and arguments with his initial group, World Class Wrecking Crew, Dre finally decided he was done. For him, it was time to make bigger moves and spread his wings. So he turned to his friend Eazy-E, and together they decided to start their label.
Well, NWA was formed just out of friends that got together and decided to make a group. I wanted to get away from the group I was in, the Wrecking Crew at the time. Right. You know what I mean? So I was really trying to find a way to get away. I didn't have enough money to go in and record. I had a group that I was ready to record on, and I didn't have enough money. So bam, in comes Eazy. You know what I mean? I knew he had money. He was out hustling. It's like, listen, man, why don't you come and throw some money into this music thing? You know what I mean?
Dre had Ice Cube pen the lyrics to their first major track, Boys in the Hood.
Cause the boys in the hood are always hard. You come talking that trash, we'll pull your...
Despite everything, Eazy-E wasn't exactly feeling the whole rapper thing. It took hours for Dre to convince him to hop on the track, Boys in the Hood.
Dre was like, yo, won't you do it, Cube? I was like, I'm in a group already. He look at Eazy, he like, won't you do it, man? You got a voice. Your voice is gonna sound good on the record. And he was like, hell no, man, what? Nah, man, that ain't how you say that line. Say it like this. Right, so we was going back and forth. It took forever to get 2 or 3 lines out. So Dre was like, you know what? Everybody leave. I'm gonna work with this dude.
But thank the hip-hop gods he caved in, because in the end, the song was dope and it launched the beginning of the group's success. Their next album, Straight Outta Compton,
the people from everywhere watching the show,
blew up and the boys were on top of the world. But behind the scenes, whew, Messi doesn't even begin to cover it.
My opinion, if Eazy was still here, we would probably be working together right now, and arguing about the work as we did back in the past. It's like, every project we had some kind of little argument about what the project should be creatively. And I would say we would probably still be doing that, but at the same time, getting the work done and probably doing something amazing.
Ice Cube was the first to notice all the shadiness. He accused their manager, Jerry Heller, of straight up robbing them.
I can't understand, I listen to people like the Simon Wiesenthal and Rabbi Cooper. Am I getting this wrong? Are they saying that they condone what Jerry Heller or some of these other people have done to me? Do they say that it's all right for Jewish managers to get young black kids with talent off the street without lawyers and without people that was helping me and my benefit to make records? That's what I'm getting.
This led to him leaving the group, and let's just say his exit wasn't quite peaceful.
The reason that we were separated was because I felt that the person that I'm talking about on the record separated us. And
your manager.
Yeah, and I understand that certain people like Dr. Dre, if I get this correct, are finally waking up and smelling the coffee, and now they're looking for their money, something that I should have told them to do, something I told them to do back in 1989.
After leaving, Cube went ahead to trash talk the group in interviews, eventually making Dre do something really terrible. But we will get to that later. After Cube left, at first, Dre stayed loyal to both Eazy-E and Jerry. But that was until he also realized he was getting screwed over.
I guess they took advantage of me not knowing the record business back in the day. But I know what's up with those numbers now.
Honey, Dre was pissed, and when Dre gets mad, he doesn't just walk away quietly. He got Suge Knight involved. And as we all know, Suge was a whole different kind of intimidating. He came in like a wrecking ball and basically strong-armed Dre out of his contract with NWA. But here's the thing. You don't just leave NWA without some serious fallout. Nope.
Basically, I had Dre signed as exclusive producer and exclusive artist. So when Dre tried to make his deal over at Interscope, you know, I was included for the next 6 years. So you can say all you want to say. Basically, you could diss me all you want, but I'm going to get paid. Because that's why I say Dre Day's only easy's payday. And that's real.
And their childhood friendship? That was long gone and buried. But in reality, the chaos hadn't even started. The real mess was in Death Row Records. The label Dre started with Suge Knight.
Did you ever worry about his safety?
There were times that it was like Fred Sanford, you know, the big one. Oh my God, you know, what is going on? Andre, are you going to be okay? Especially when he was in Death Row. That was the worst part.
When Dre left NWA, he probably thought he was stepping into bigger and better things by co-founding Death Row with Suge Knight. But boy, big mistake. I mean, if Dre thought things were messy with NWA, he for sure was in for a wild run now. Suge was straight up running things like a mafia boss. Intimidation, violence, ripping artists off, you name it. And to make matters even worse, this all went down right in the middle of the whole East Coast-West Coast feud. You see, the East Coast and West Coast were in for some serious beef, and Suge and Tupac were the headliners for the West Coast throwing major shades at literally every rapper from the East Coast. Now, don't get it twisted, Death Row was killing it on the charts, especially with Dre dropping hits like The Chronic.
D.R.E. on the solo tip.
But behind all the success, the place was a complete madhouse. Dre might act tough, but he sure wasn't built for that kind of toxic environment.
Dr. Dre is being sought for stabbing a 17-year-old kid. And I was like, oh my God. And first thing I thought, I don't know what, was to call Andre. And he's at home in his bed. And I said, well, Andre, I was like going, they're talking about you were involved in this thing, you know. And he says, wasn't me. He said, Mom, you can't believe everything the media said.
My guy wanted out so bad. And so what did Dre do? He exited the group faster than you can say Death Row. Now, Dre may not have been built for Suge's brand of madness, but when it came to bullying women, oh, he had no problems flexing his muscles and showing just how tough he could be.
Any man that puts his hands on a female is a fucking idiot. I was out of my mind at the time. I paid for it. I'm sorry for it. And I apologize for it. I have this dark cloud that follows me. It's a major blemish on who I am as a man.
Remember when I hinted that Dre did something terrible because Ice Cube was bad-mouthing NWA?
That's the bottom line. Bottom line, that's it. No more NWA.
Well, let's get into it. Back in 1991, TV host Dee Barnes accused Dre of full-on attacking her at a party.
You know, let's go play. And I was heading down there and I got interrupted. Someone pulled me aside, started to conversate with me, and I was like, oh, I'll be right there, you know. Don't start the game without me. And while I was talking to this person, Dre approached.
And what did he do? Did he say anything?
Just grabbed me.
He grabbed you?
Just grabbed me. I thought he was going to walk past me.
He allegedly slammed her into a wall and attempted to throw her down a flight of stairs. As if that wasn't bad enough, he reportedly kicked her multiple times in the ribs.
I mean, it's no secret. They grabbed me by my hair and started slamming me up against the wall. It's a painful and traumatic experience. And then when you add celebrity into the factor, it's a constant reminder.
Yeah, let that sink in. Now, why did he go all WWE on her? Because she aired a segment where Ice Cube was dragging NWA, and apparently Dre couldn't handle the heat. But instead of squaring up with Ice Cube, you know, the guy actually talking smack, he decided to take it out on a woman. And the other NWA members, their reactions were a whole mess too.
In Los Angeles, Dee Barnes, host of the Fox TV rap show Pump It Up, is filing a civil suit against Dr. Dre of the hardcore rap group NWA. Barnes seeks damages over $10 million and claims that last January at an LA club, Dre assaulted her, grabbing her hair, slamming her face and body into a wall, and kicking her in the ribs. Barnes' attorneys say that Dre was apparently upset that one of Barnes' producers inserted her interview with NWA member Ice Cube into a Pump It Up show last winter featuring NWA. The group and Ice Cube have become mortal enemies since he left NWA 2 years ago. NWA's independent publicist, Norman Winter, says, quote, "I know Dr. Dre as a gentle soul, the loving father of a baby boy. I can't imagine him treating any lady in anything but a gentlemanly fashion." No comment from NWA's record label, but here's what NWA themselves had to say about the incident back in March.
That's what she get. I hope she did it again. She got beat down. The person, the host of that show, did something and she know what she did and got beat down, and I hope it happened again.
I mean, talk about a bunch of disappointments. But that wasn't even Dre's first time. At this point, it seemed like Dre's response to any issues with women is laying his hands on them. In the 1990 Grammys, Dre went off on a female rapper, Terry B, just because she had the audacity to diss him on her track, Ruthless Bitch.
"Cause you ain't no rapper, and what do you look like? The rumor has it."
And guess what? Somehow the whole thing magically disappeared after she was allegedly paid to drop the charges. Talk about using money to solve your problems. Now here's where you might be thinking. For someone who didn't have a problem laying hands on women he wasn't involved with, what on earth went down with the women that were actually present in his personal life? Well, let's get into it, cause woo, the mess was real. This man juggled 5 baby mamas, 1 chaotic marriage that exploded into a high-profile divorce, and 9 children. Yup, you heard all that right. First, let's kick off with Cassandra Joy. At age 16, Dre and his then 15-year-old girlfriend, Cassandra, welcomed a child they named Curtis. But just like his own father, Dre was MIA for most of his son's life.
Oh man, I'm about to fly coach, man. I'm humble. You know, it's all good though.
In fact, it wasn't until Curtis was 20 before he would meet Dre for the very first time. I mean, talk about establishing a generational pattern. Dre wasted no time moving on to his next victim, and this time, it was none other than Lisa Johnson. Cut to 3 children after, yup, Dre was gone again. But the tea? Dre reportedly beat Lisa multiple times, including while she was pregnant. Anyways, 5 years after the end of that mess of a relationship, yup, you guessed it, Dre was on to yet another woman. This time, he would welcome a cute baby boy, Andre Jr., with Janita Porter. And that didn't end well either, because tragically on August 23, 2008, Andre Jr. died from an overdose at his mom's house in Los Angeles. His stepbro, Curtis, also talked about the unfortunate death of his younger brother.
R.I.P. to my brother. Y'all know who it is. Young Dre. R.I.P. to my grandma. R.I.P. to my grandpa. R.I.P. to all my family out there. You know what I mean? Just anybody that lost somebody, you know, definitely, you know, God is watching over them and keep it close to your heart. The boy Curtis Young. For my little brother, just 20 years old, he had to watch his whole life unfold. Death came quick and he died way too young, so I had to reach out to Mr. Andre Young.
Now, if you thought Dre had learned anything from his messy past, well then think again. After his relationship with Janita, Dre will finally show signs of being serious in a relationship, even going as far as getting engaged. But boy, that didn't stop all the drama from unfolding. His relationship with the R&B diva started in the late 80s, and at first, it was the classic "they are a power couple" headlines. But of course, that didn't last long.
I started playing house thinking that it would change straight too, and it didn't. Women was all over him, and I was like, I shouldn't be getting women up out my bed. If you're gonna do it, I shouldn't be escorting them out of my house.
In an interview with Wendy Williams, Michelet revealed that Dr. Dre beat her so badly that she had to get plastic surgery to fix the damage he caused to her face.
I've talked before, you know, in radio days about Dre and putting his hands on, not just you, but remember that old VJ, D. Barnes? Which of the 2 guys broke your nose?
That was Dre and Dre.
Boo, talk about encompassing the title abusive. Eventually, Michelet found the courage to leave when Dre got engaged to someone else in 1996. Despite the fact that they were still together.
Why would you stay for so long?
Well, I stayed because it was normal. Well, after the first hit, you don't think they're going to do it again. And it does escalate, but I didn't call the police because I didn't want him to go to jail because all of the men that where I came from were always going to jail and be gone years. So I didn't think that was a good idea.
Now, who is this someone else, you ask? Nicole Young, the one woman Dre decided was worthy of him tying the knot with. And funny enough, for a whole 24 years, things cooled down, and it seemed like Dre had finally turned the corner. But you know what they say about a leopard never changing its spots? In 2020, Nicole filed for divorce. And yup, you guessed it, it was the same old news. Domestic violence, cheating, and everything in between.
Some of the charges his wife was making was even that he had been violent with her.
Right. There's a new set of charges.
Track record suck.
Well, 2 days before he ended up in the hospital, she had filed paperwork saying that he had beat her and put a gun to her.
But Nicole wasn't going to let him off the hook easily. Not this time. Sis fought tooth and nail, and let's just say she cashed out big time, raking in a whopping $100 million in divorce settlements. But on January 5th, 2021, Dr. Dre will be rushed to the hospital after suffering a brain aneurysm that had everyone holding their breath. I mean, for a moment there, people seriously thought we might lose him. But thankfully, Dre pulled through. Yet his health issues didn't stop him from messing around with yet another beauty. If you know what I mean, wink, wink. And this time, it was none other than TV presenter April Jones. I mean, for now, we really can't tell if they got something cooking. But April might just end up as a baby mama 6. Who knows? So what's left of Dr. Dre? Well, despite all the scandals, drama, and chaos, Dre will always be remembered as a musical genius. He practically invented West Coast rap and gave us iconic artists like Snoop Dogg, Eminem.
I feel like Dre saved my life.
And 50 Cent, while also building a whole empire with Beats by Dre. But let's not kid ourselves. His legacy is complicated. People will remember the hits and the success, but they'll also remember the violence, the lawsuits, and that billion-dollar divorce. As of now, Dre's keeping a low profile, focusing on his business ventures. He has dived deep into the real estate business, snatching up million-dollar properties like it's nothing. But don't get it twisted, he hasn't totally left the music scene either. He and Snoop absolutely lit it up at the #Pepsi halftime show. Go ahead and turn it on up. And guess what? His iconic album, The Chronic, just celebrated its 30th anniversary with a re-release on all streaming platforms. Oh, and if you thought Dre was sitting out Kendrick Lamar's big night, think again. On June 19th, Dre popped out at Kendrick's The Pop Out Ken and Friends show to celebrate his boy's epic victory over Drake, marking not only a big night in the beef, but also a big night in West Coast rap history.
I see red people.
So, baby, with all that success and his net worth still sitting around $800 million, it's clear that Dre's swimming in cash. But let's be real, though. The drama and that woman beater reputation?
Does Dre get a pass at being such a notorious woman beater because he makes good music? One would say that, some people ain't gonna be praying for Dr. Dre, and a lot of women. But you can get a pass, it seems, if you're popular. He's a notorious woman beater.
Honey, that's always gonna follow him for sure.